On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history.
As a Jamaican, what that means for me, I feel that what he's trying to do, what is he going to go by everybody's house and bust up in their door and ask them for their papers? He's setting us back 200 or 300 years.
We'll put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country.
Is the promise to decimate American communities by targeting immigrants for mass deportations.
Trump has won again. We had a reprieve for 4 years, and now he's back. What does that mean? Who knows? It's going to be a huge difference in immigration. It's going to be a huge difference in immigration courts, in family immigration, and all of those aspects.
The year is 2024. The unthinkable has happened. Donald Trump, against all odds and predictions, has returned to the White House. For many, this signals a triumph, but for others, it feels like a death knell. Among those most deeply troubled are Black Americans and Jamaican immigrants. They remember the rhetoric, the policies, the palpable tension of his previous term. A question hangs heavy in the air. Is it time to leave? This is not a question asked lightly. It is born of fear and frustration, of a growing sense that America, the land of promise and opportunity, has failed to live up to its ideals. For Black Americans, this struggle is woven into the fabric of their history. From the brutal legacy of slavery to the ongoing fight for civil rights, the fight for equality has been a constant. But for some, Trump's victory feels like a dangerous backslide, a regression into the darkest chapters of the past. For Jamaican immigrants, the situation is equally complex. They came to America seeking a better life, drawn by the allure of the American dream. But Trump's anti-immigrant rhetoric, his policies aimed at curtailing immigration from certain countries, have left them feeling unwelcome and vulnerable. The promise of America seems to be fading, replaced by a climate of fear and uncertainty. The decision to leave one's homeland is never easy. It is a wrenching choice, fraught with emotional, financial, and logistical hurdles. But for some Black Americans and Jamaican immigrants, the prospect of living under a second Trump presidency is simply too much to bear. They are left with a heartbreaking dilemma: stay and fight for a country that seems increasingly hostile, or seek refuge elsewhere, leaving behind loved ones and the only home they've ever known. The answer, as with most things in life, is far from simple. The mere mention of the name Trump evokes a visceral reaction in many. For some, it's a rallying cry, a symbol of strength and defiance. But for others, particularly Black Americans and Jamaican immigrants, it's a trigger, a reminder of a period marked by heightened racial tensions and a sense of profound unease. Trump's first presidency was, to put it mildly, divisive. His rhetoric, often inflammatory and racially charged, seemed to embolden white supremacist groups and fuel a climate of intolerance. Incidents of hate crimes rose sharply during his tenure, leaving many Black Americans and immigrants feeling vulnerable and targeted. The Make America Great Again slogan, while seemingly innocuous to some, felt to others like a dog whistle, a coded message harking back to a time when white supremacy reigned supreme. The Muslim travel ban, the separation of families at the border, the attempts to dismantle DACA, these policies, coupled with Trump's dismissive attitude towards racial injustice, sent a chilling message to Black Americans and immigrants: you are not welcome here. The fear was palpable, the anxiety ever present. It was a time when many felt like strangers in their own country, their voices drowned out by the roar of a resurgent white nationalism. Trump's presidency, for all its bluster and bravado, had cast a long shadow, one that lingered long after he left office. Now, with his return to power, that shadow threatens to engulf them once more. The issue of immigration has long been a contentious one in America, but under Trump, it took on a particularly sinister tone. Gone was the rhetoric of America as a melting pot, a nation built by immigrants. In its place was a narrative of fear and exclusion, of walls and borders, of us versus them. Trump's immigration policies were particularly harsh, targeting not only undocumented immigrants, but also those seeking legal entry. The Muslim travel ban, one of his first acts in office, sent shockwaves through Muslim communities across the country and around the world. The message was clear: America was closing its doors. For Jamaican immigrants, many of whom had come to the U.S. legally, the shift was palpable. They found themselves facing increased scrutiny, their legal status questioned, their contributions to American society dismissed. The dream of becoming American citizens, once a beacon of hope, seemed to be slipping away. The Trump administration's attempts to dismantle DACA, a program that protected young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children, caused further anxiety. Many of these dreamers, as they were known, had known no other home but America. They were American in every way but on paper. Yet, they found themselves facing deportation to countries they barely remembered. The message was clear. America was no longer a welcoming place for immigrants, particularly those from black and brown countries. The walls were going up, both literally and figuratively, and in the shadows, whispers of fear and uncertainty grew louder. The American dream. It's a concept deeply ingrained in the national psyche, the belief that anyone, regardless of their background, can achieve success through hard work and determination. But for Black Americans, the reality has often fallen far short of the ideal. Centuries of systemic racism and discrimination have created deep-seated inequalities that persist to this day. For many Black Americans, Trump's presidency felt like a cruel reminder of their place in American society. His economic policies, while touted as beneficial to all, disproportionately benefited the wealthy, leaving many Black Americans struggling to make ends meet. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, and the American dream seemed increasingly out of reach for those at the bottom. Trump's rhetoric, often dismissive of the plight of Black Americans, only added insult to injury. His refusal to acknowledge the existence of systemic racism, his characterization of Black communities as crime-ridden and impoverished, ignored the very real challenges faced by millions. It was a stark reminder that for all the progress made, America still had a long way to go in confronting its racist past and present. The COVID-19 pandemic further exposed these inequalities. Black Americans were disproportionately affected by the virus, both in terms of health outcomes and economic impact. Yet they received little support from the Trump administration, which seemed more concerned with downplaying the severity of the virus than addressing its devastating consequences. The message was clear: Black lives didn't matter. Not to this administration, not to this country. And for many, that realization was a bitter pill to swallow. A house divided against itself cannot stand. This age-old adage holds true in many aspects of life, from personal relationships to grand political landscapes. When unity falters, the foundation begins to crumble. In times of division, it is crucial to remember that strength lies in solidarity and understanding. Only through coming together can we hope to build a future that stands the test of time. Sometimes home isn't the safe haven it's meant to be. For many, the familiar surroundings become a place of fear and uncertainty. This harsh reality forces countless individuals to make the difficult decision to leave behind everything they've known. The allure of the Caribbean, with its promise of warmth and opportunity, has long been a beacon for those seeking a fresh start. The vibrant cultures and communities offer a sense of hope and a chance to rebuild lives disrupted by turmoil. Heading north, many find solace in the promise of safety and stability. The journey is fraught with challenges, but the prospect of a better future drives them forward. In these new lands, they seek not just refuge, but a place to call home. The decision to leave one's homeland is never taken lightly. The weight of leaving behind family, friends, and the familiar is a heavy burden. His campaign promises and rhetoric signaled a drastic change in direction. For many, particularly minority communities, a sense of unease settled in. This essay explores the impact of Trump's presidency on Jamaican immigrants and Black Americans. We will examine how his policies and rhetoric affected their lives. Trump's rise to power coincided with a global surge in populism and nationalism. His focus on America First resonated with a segment of the population that felt left behind by globalization and social change. However, for marginalized communities, this message carried an undertone of exclusion and fear. The following sections delve deeper into the specific ways Trump's presidency impacted these groups. Immigration has always been a cornerstone of American identity. For decades, people from all over the world have sought opportunities and refuge on American soil. Jamaican immigrants, drawn by the promise of a better life, have contributed significantly to the nation's social and economic fabric. Trump's approach to immigration, however, was marked by restriction and a tightening of borders. One of the most significant impacts was felt through changes to immigration policies. The Diversity Visa Lottery, a program that provided a pathway for immigrants from underrepresented countries, including Jamaica, faced potential cuts. This program had been a lifeline for many, offering a chance to build a future in America. The Trump administration's efforts to limit family-based immigration further compounded the anxieties of Jamaican immigrants. Many relied on family sponsorship to reunite with loved ones or bring over family members. The economic landscape under Trump was complex. His signature tax cuts, while touted as a boon for businesses, had a mixed impact on working-class immigrants. While some sectors saw job creation, the benefits trickled down unevenly.
Many Jamaican immigrants found themselves in industries like construction, healthcare, and hospitality. These sectors, while vital to the economy, often offer lower wages and limited benefits. The focus on deregulation and the weakening of labor unions further exacerbated these challenges. The promise of a booming economy rang hollow for those struggling to make ends meet.
Perhaps the most profound impact of Trump's presidency was felt in the realm of race relations. His rhetoric, often inflammatory and divisive, ignited tensions and deepened existing racial divides. Incidents of hate crimes and racial profiling surged, creating a climate of fear and insecurity.
Trump's response to the Black Lives Matter movement further alienated Black Americans. His dismissal of their concerns and his focus on law and order ignored the systemic racism and police brutality that plagued communities of color. The criminal justice system, already disproportionately impacting Black Americans, saw little progress in terms of meaningful reform.
Section 5, Healthcare, a lifeline weakened. Access to affordable healthcare remained a contentious issue under Trump.
His attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, or ACA, threatened to leave millions without health insurance.
Both Black Americans and Jamaican immigrants, often disproportionately uninsured, faced uncertainty and fear.
Cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid and SNAP compounded these anxieties.
These programs provided vital assistance to low-income families, ensuring access to food, healthcare, and other essential services.
The dismantling of these programs threatened to push vulnerable communities further into poverty.
Section 6, the widening gap, economic inequality under Trump. The economic divide in America, a persistent and growing problem, continued to widen under Trump.
While the stock market soared, wages for the working class stagnated. Black Americans, already facing systemic barriers to economic mobility, saw little benefit from Trump's policies.
The focus on deregulation and tax cuts for corporations did little to address the root causes of economic inequality. The promise of trickle-down economics failed to materialize for many, leaving behind those who needed it most.
The gap between the haves and the have-nots grew wider, exacerbating social tensions.
Section 7, a nation divided social and cultural impacts. Beyond the realm of policy, Trump's presidency had a profound impact on the social and cultural fabric of America.
His rhetoric and actions emboldened extremist groups, leading to a surge in hate speech and bigotry.
The erosion of civil discourse and the rise of misinformation further polarized the nation. Trust in institutions waned, and a sense of disillusionment settled over many.
The American dream, once a beacon of hope, seemed increasingly out of reach for marginalized communities.
Section 8, Activism and Resistance. In response to the divisive policies and rhetoric, a wave of activism and resistance surged across the nation.
Black Americans, alongside other marginalized groups, took to the streets to demand justice and equality. The Black Lives Matter movement gained unprecedented momentum during this period.
Communities came together, organizing protests, creating support networks, and amplifying their voices to challenge the status quo. The fight for social justice became more visible and urgent than ever.
Despite the challenges, this era of activism showcased the resilience and determination of those fighting for a more just and equitable society. Section 9, a legacy of struggle and resilience. The years under Trump's presidency left an indelible mark on Jamaican immigrants and Black Americans. It was a time of struggle, but also a testament to their resilience. The fight for equality and justice continues, driven by the unwavering spirit of those who refuse to be silenced. Their legacy is one of courage, determination, and hope for a better future.
Black people have been facing a lot of problems while trying to move from their own country to the Western country. And one major thing that drives Black people to actually move in their numbers to these Western countries is one, the mentality we have that it's only in these Western countries that you can actually make it. That's wrong. That's wrong, because people have made it while in Africa. People are making it in the Caribbean. So you have no reason to move to the Western countries. You don't have to move to the US, France, Belgium, Germany, UK to make it. You can make it at your own place. So we've been seeing racial segregation going on years after years. Now, they have been talking, and we've been seeing human rights commissions here and there. We've been seeing actually the UN trying to create some organs to fight this racial segregation and so other evils that come up when black people and white people try to mix up. But however, this has not gained, or this has not beared some fruits, because we still see them and the same things happening. Now, there are some states that do not even associate themselves with black immigrants. I've seen cases where black people cry out on TikTok, they cry out on social media, they are trying to speak whatever is happening. Black brothers and sisters, it is not easy living far from home. It's not easy at all. And that's why I always advocate for good governance in our own countries, so that the systems work, so that we don't have to move to the other side. We have brothers and sisters who are born on the other side, who are raised there. Our brothers who were taken as slaves 400, 300 years back through transatlantic slave trade, where human beings were being exchanged as goods in the market. Human beings were being bought just like meat in the supermarket or in a butcher. So these things have continued happening, and some people of a certain race have always felt superior than the black people. They have always felt like these black people should be taken back to their continent. And some of them who talk or who have these mentalities, they came and found black people. The last time I checked, some black people came to the US long ago than some white people who just came from Spain, Mexico, and all that. But all this white narrative, white supremacy, have always been actually propelled by these systems that, you know what, we are the leaders and we are the superior. We actually own this country. Who fought for this country? Who fought for the US? Who fought for the Western countries? The industrialization that took place in the US and Europe, it was as a result of black labor. Black people were taken to their farms. That's why they achieved all that they have, thanks to the black continent. So it is time. I do feel like we've talked enough, and they have ears. They have heard, but they can't change. They are the same people. They say monkeys can change. No, forests can change, but the monkeys are the same. Trees can be grown, different types of trees in forests, but the monkeys will always be the same habits, jumping from one tree to the other. We've been talking, commissions, human rights commissions can be formed day in, day out. But if these people or if these states are not welcoming to black people, then what should we do? Make our own black countries work. Thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. This is Eli from Africa, and if it's the first time, kindly consider subscribing to the channel. Share, like, and comment. Thank you so much.